Hi, Tamika. Nice to meet you.
Darrell.
Yes, I'm Darrell Anderson, the CEO of Chef Joseph's Kick Sauce. Located in Virginia Beach, we manufacture kick sauces, seasonings, ginger drinks with alkaline water. And our specialty is in recipe development, teaching entrepreneurs how to take the products to the retail market to make a profit.
All right. Nice to meet you.
Jetty, you on?
I am. Good morning or good afternoon, Adam. My name is Jetty Townsend. I'm out in California too, in the southeastern California, near the Arizona border, and we have a small three acre lot here, and we farm vegetables. I'm getting into trees and stuff like that, but we look forward to what you have to share with us because we've been waiting this for I don't know, I think about 240 some years.
Well, really nice to meet you too. It's nice to have people from all over the country on.
Thank you, brother. Oh, and also that's my Andromeda. You might want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I was waiting on Gabe to go, but we had lost him, so he's back now.
Yeah, I'm Andromeda. I with my father reside in the eastern part of California at the Little Red Hen aquaponics farm.
Nice to meet you, Andromeda.
Did we get TJ? TJ.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm having some problems with my computer here. But TJ Jamerson, I am with the Legacy Farm Group, and I work with John in terms of strategy and planning from that respect. So I'm based out of Florida, and I welcome you to our call today. Thank you for coming.
Nice to meet you, TJ, and thank you again for having me.
Great. John, you want to get started? You want to wait a couple more minutes, or?
It's up to you. We're ready whenever you are. You're the host now.
All right. Great. Well, let's go ahead and get started. You want to start recording? Fantastic. All right. Well, for those of you that are new to the call, we're the Life Group. We're comprised of the Legacy Farming and Health Group and People's Foundation, and as well as the Purdue University Agribility Project. And our goal is to assist and collaborate with disenfranchised African-American farmers, both new and established farmers, as well as veteran farmers across the nation. We have members and participants spanning from Barbados to California, with some international participants as well in Africa. So let's see here. We're going to have our monthly guest speaker today, and let me just pull this up real quick. And I'm excited to introduce our guest speaker for the January iteration of our monthly virtual Farmers Workshop, Adam ZipKin, counselor to Senator Cory Booker of New Jersey, joins us this evening to discuss Bill number S.4929, also known as the Justice for Black Farmers Act 2020. And Adam's been leading the staff level work to draft this bill, as well as conducting research and building support necessary for such an important endeavor. And I see this as a great way to start off the new year, providing insight and opportunity into our life project. So I'm just going to request that everybody mute their mics while we have our guest speaker. And following the presentation, we'll have a Q&A session. And I would just ask that those who want to ask questions either raise their hand physically or just use the raise hand app in the Zoom feature. So Adam, without further ado, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's an honor having you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and hopefully that's a better picture. I hope that my dogs won't start barking, the whole working from home. I'll give that just caveat in the beginning. But thank you again for having me. And I'm really excited to have the opportunity to talk about the Justice for Black Farmers Act that Senator Booker and Senator Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts and Senator Gillibrand from New York introduced in November, and they plan to reintroduce early in this new Congress that we just started. And as a lot of you probably know and have known longer than I have, there's just a terrible history in our country of discrimination against Black farmers. And specifically over just the last 100 years, from 1920 to now, there's a very well documented history of discrimination by the USDA against Black farmers. And what that has led to, what that has been the predominant cause of, is a substantial loss of almost all of the Black farmers in our country. We've gone from having almost 1 million Black farmers in the United States in 1920 to less than 50,000 today. And over the course of that time, we've lost, Black farmers have lost, we don't have exact numbers, the data is not perfect, but something close to 20 million acres of farmland, probably somewhere between 15 and 20 million acres of farmland that Black farmers have lost, that represents just, tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of generational wealth that those Black farmers and Black families have lost. And we started back in the summer. Senator Booker, recognized that this is a very big issue, right? It's 100 years of discrimination with all of the sort of deep roots that discrimination has and all the harm that's been caused. And so we really wanted to Senator Booker wanted to try to come up with as comprehensive of a solution to this problem, to this history of discrimination against Black farmers as possible. And so there's really 4 pillars to this bill. And I'll just sort of walk through and describe each of them and everything that's in the bill. And then I really look forward to answering questions that people may have come into the call having if I don't address them, or as you're hearing me talk about these different sections of the bill. So the first pillar is an attempt to once and for all end discrimination by the USDA. So putting a whole host of reforms in place within USDA to try to, at least moving forward, sort of have an agency where, and by the way, it's not just Black farmers, right? But Indigenous farmers and a lot of others have suffered as well. And so really trying to put reforms in place so that the agency is treating everyone fairly. And so the bill would create a civil rights oversight board, an independent board that would oversee the civil rights complaint process within USDA and would provide an opportunity, anyone that files a civil rights complaint that is not satisfied with the outcome of how their case is handled, would have the ability to appeal to this independent board and have a sort of the board take an independent look at the complaint and to make a final decision about the merits of the complaint. The bill would prohibit the general counsel within USDA from interfering in the civil rights complaint process, because there's been a lot of experience by Black farmers where the general counsel getting involved has taken something that seemed like a complaint that had merit that was going to be addressed by the agency to instead having the agency take a much more litigious position and not ultimately working to help the Black farmers. The bill would create an equity commission to look at the county committee structure that we have, because a lot of the complaints that we heard, that Senator Booker and our offices heard from Black farmers, was that these county committees, it's at the county level where historically there's been a lot of discrimination against Black farmers. And so trying to have an independent equity commission that would be made up of Black farmers and advocates and representatives from 1890s to look at this system and see if there are reforms that we need to make to the county committee system, maybe even going as far as abolishing that system. And then the bill in that section would create an ombudsman position within the USDA Office of Civil Rights so that Black farmers and other farmers would have someone to sort of help them navigate the complaint process. Because again, there's just been a lot of complaints by Black farmers that they sort of suffered at the hands of USDA twice. First, in not being provided access to lending and to safety net programs that were being provided to white farmers. But then when they came and filed civil rights complaints, sort of being mistreated again by the agency and having their complaint intentionally sort of the clock run out on it, or just having it not decided. So that's one pillar of the bill, is just trying to really reform the agency and have a situation where moving forward, Black farmers and everyone is being treated fairly. The second pillar of the bill is focused on putting protections in place and making reforms to protect the remaining Black farmers that are still on their land, to protect them from losing their land, right? Because this is an ongoing phenomenon where the majority of the land loss by Black farmers has actually been from 1950 to the present. So it's a very modern, it's, we know that the discrimination is still happening. We know that Black farmers are still, a lot of them, really struggling. And right now with COVID and everything else happening, sort of just hanging on and at risk of foreclosure. So the bill would put a foreclosure moratorium in place. It would forgive debt that Black farmers who filed claims in the Pigford litigation had, because that debt was supposed to have been forgiven a long time ago. So it would once and for all sort of forgive that debt and wipe the slate clean for those Black farmers. The bill would, one of the things that we heard from Black farmers and from advocates was that even with all the reforms we were putting in place, they were still skeptical that they would ever be treated fairly by the current sort of farm credit system and the farm credit lenders. And so one of the ideas that was brought to us by the advocates themselves was to create a new bank, the only mission of which is to provide financing to Black farmer and other socially disadvantaged farmer and rancher owned financial co-ops. So if you have Black farmers that start a credit union or a savings bank that's member owned by the farmers, this new bank would be there to provide financing, to provide grants and loans on very favorable terms to try to get capital to Black farmers who have historically, that's been one of the main sort of ways that the discrimination has played out, is that the farm loans, the operating loans, just haven't been there for the Black farmers, or they would be there in such a way that it was setting the Black farmers up to fail. So providing less money than was needed, providing the money late after the growing season was, pretty far along, whereas the white farmers were getting, loans earlier and on favorable terms. The Black farmers would, this discrimination that was happening was in the lending space. And so the bill would create a new bank to be there as a source of capital for Black farmers. And then the third pillar of the bill is an attempt to restore the land base that's been lost. And so the bill would create a new line agency in USDA whose sole purpose is to create a land grant program to provide land grants, farmland grants of up to 160 acres to either existing Black farmers or aspiring new Black farmers. And, this was another, big section of the bill where we had an idea for what we wanted to do, but we really went out and talked to Black farmers and to advocates to get their advice on like, what's the best way to structure this so that we're setting the Black farmers up with the best chance to be successful and to thrive. And so the first thing that we heard and that we, took very seriously and used in structuring the program is that no one wanted to have USDA being the one to pick the land. They didn't trust USDA. They thought, great, USDA will go acquire 5,000 acres of farmland in South Dakota or something, and then tell all these Black farmers, like, here is your land grant, go, figure it out in South Dakota. So instead, what the bill does is it provides operating grants to nonprofits that work with Black farmers. Programs like Life, I think, would be the types of sort of nonprofits that the bill would provide funding to, and also to the 1890s, to the HBCU land grant universities, providing operating funds to the nonprofits and the universities so that they can work with the existing Black farmers and the aspiring Black farmers, and they find a private farm that's for sale up to 160 acres. And so it could be anywhere in the country. And so depending on the individual's level of experience in farming and in agriculture, and depending on where they currently live, like for someone, a 1 acre urban farm in Detroit or Newark, or, might be the ideal sort of land grant that they're looking for to get something up and running. Whereas to another Black farmer, it might be 100 or 150 acres, 160 acres in a rural area. That's the type of farm that makes the most sense for them. But the bottom line is the program would be very bottom up. It would be driven by the farmers and the advocates identifying the land, bringing it to USDA. USDA would acquire it for fair market value, and then put some easements on it to make sure it's going to stay in perpetuity as agricultural land, and then convey it to the Black farmers. And the 1890s and the nonprofits would, the funding that they would be given, it's not just to help the existing and aspiring Black farmers to identify the land, but also to apply for the land grant, to get the farm up and running, to provide business training and regenerative agriculture training to the Black farmers who want it and need it, and to provide other assistance to them. This section of the bill would also provide that the recipients of the land grants would have access to USDA operating loans and USDA home mortgage programs on very favorable terms. So that, again, just trying to put everything we can in here to set the farmers up to be successful. And then one other thing I'll mention about this section is it would create a farm conservation corps. So sort of modeled after what FDR set up in the New Deal, where he had a civilian conservation corps to go out and do, tree planting and recreational projects and conservation projects. The USDA would set up a program for young people from socially disadvantaged communities, so young Black and brown individuals who want to participate in this program. USDA would provide them with the sort of classroom training and the skills and pay them to go be on-farm apprentices for up to 2 years for Black farmers and other small farmers around the country, who would then be getting some assistance on their farm that USDA is paying for. The participants in the program are getting sort of their apprenticeship and on-farm experience to see if, to learn about it and to see if it's something that they want to do longer term in their life. And then young Black people who go through the program would be prioritized for a land grant if they then decide, that is what they want to do and they want to go into farming and apply for a land grant. That's the 3 pillars. And then the 4th pillar of the bill is putting reforms in place, broader systems reforms and investments that, having worked on these issues with family farmers for a bunch of years, Senator Booker's sort of worldview at the moment is just that the system is really broken. The whole system is really sort of tilted towards the really big consolidated meatpacking companies and the big chemical company, and that like small family farmers right now, it's really hard for them to just be treated fairly and to sort of to get a fair price for their produce or their livestock, because the way the system is set up and the fact that you have just a handful of companies that control all of the seeds and all of the chemicals. You have just a handful of companies, Tyson and Smithfield, and right, that are there as the buyers. And so in a lot of regions, there's literally just one buyer. And so it's just not a fair price that's paid to the farmers and ranchers. And so the bill would update the Packers and Stockyards Act, which is the sort of antitrust law that was originally passed 100 years ago to try to rein in these big meatpacking companies. And for a while it was successful, but it's now not been enforced for a long time. And these companies are now sort of bigger than they even were when these laws were passed 100 years ago. And so it would put those types of reforms in place. And it would also add substantial funding to some of the USDA conservation programs and to the conservation technical assistance, and provide priority to Black farmers and other socially disadvantaged farmers and ranchers to have access to that technical assistance and to have access to programs like the Conservation Stewardship Program that gives them, grants to perform conservation practices that are beneficial from a climate change perspective, beneficial from, so many different lenses when you consider the resiliency to the farm and protecting drinking water and reducing flooding, and probably the types of conservation practices that a lot of people listening to me on this Zoom, already work with in a lot of ways. And so that's I know there's a lot there that I just went through, but that's what the bill would do. And Senator Booker's intention and the other senators that we're working with, we plan to reintroduce the bill maybe as soon as in February, and then just make this a priority to try to find a path forward. The Democrats, with winning Georgia, the Senate composition is changing. Congressman Scott from Georgia is the chair of the House Ag Committee now, and he's very focused on wanting to help Black farmers and address these issues. And so I think there's the opportunity for hearings and to build support for the bill. And then as the next farm bill is being written, looking at that as a vehicle as well to try to get as many of these provisions enacted into law one way or another over the next, 1, 2, 3 years.
Fantastic summary, Adam. I really appreciate that information. I think it was extremely helpful for everyone on this call. I'm sure there's lots of questions out there. John, if you're still on, I can't see people that raise their hands through the app. So if you could just let me know. But I'm going to start off the questions real quick. And I actually have a few, but I'll start one off with, because this all sounds great to us as African Americans. But I'm sure you anticipate there's probably going to be some objections from some party, maybe some of the monopolies you just talked about, maybe the USDA themselves. I was just curious to know if you've anticipated or thought about maybe some of the pushback that would say, hey, we don't want to pass this bill.
Yeah, that's a great question, because obviously for anything like this, right, like it's great to come up with really good policy, but you also have to be thinking about what are the politics and what's your base of support. And so we worked really hard before we introduced the bill to get support, not just from a lot of the advocates that work with Black farmers, so the Federation of Southern Co-ops and the National Black Farmer Association, and a lot of regional and local and national groups with Black farmers, but we also were able to get support from National Farmers Union and National Sustainable Ag Coalition, National Family Farm Coalition, Farm Aid. So because I think for two reasons. One, they at this moment in time, they all recognize this terrible history of discrimination against Black farmers, and they want to be like standing up as our country is sort of reckoning with racial justice issues, they want to be part of the solution, and they want to help regardless of whether all their members are Black farmers or not, which a lot is they're not. But also because of some of these systems reforms that we have in the bill that would help all farmers, that makes that part of the bill is attractive to them as well, because it would help them and their members. And then specifically, we reached out to advocates for Native American farmers, because obviously, look, this terrible history of discrimination by USDA against Black farmers over the last 100 years, in one sense, it's unique, Like what happened to Black farmers that we're trying to address in this bill is really a story of what happened to that specific group in the last 100 years. But obviously, there's a lot of other groups, including Native American farmers, that have suffered terrible discrimination and had their land taken from them. And it's a different history, but it's equally terrible. And so, as I mentioned a couple of times that you may have heard, so the land grant program is specific to Black farmers, but a lot of the other things, ending discrimination by USDA, that's going to benefit Black farmers, but it's also going to benefit Native American farmers and others. And then the bank that we create is a socially disadvantaged farmer and rancher bank. So it's not just for Black farmers. It would help Native American farmers and, Latino and Latina farmers and others. And so we got feedback from those groups, and we ultimately got endorsements from the Intertribal Agriculture Council and the Native Farm Bill Working Group. So we got, we were very intentional in trying to build a lot of support. That said, I think we'll see as we start to have the new administration get up and running and USDA get up and running. I think there's a lot in this bill that they will like and that they will embrace, and that they will actually, some of it, they don't even have to wait for the bill to pass. They could just start to implement some of these reforms. And so, so we're hopeful that with, President Biden and the new administration, that we'll have a partner, whether they'll ultimately be supportive of 100% of what's in the bill that I just went through with you, that part of it we'll have to find out.
All right, appreciate that. Well said. I do have a few questions in queue. So I've got TJ. You ready to ask your question, TJ? Right now you're on mute.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm with Verizon. Adam, I don't know if I've got questions per se, or just talking points that I want to just sort of walk through, and there are probably four that I want to hit pretty heavy on for consideration as part of this discussion. The first one, and I don't know where others are here, but from my perspective, one of the things that I think is really important to consider is that words matter. And so sometimes when you place words, you create imagery, a visual that people see. And so when we talk about disadvantaged farmers, or socially disadvantaged, however you position from this table, I respect why it's that way. But if you're a lending institution, if you're someone that is working with folks on a day-to-day basis, that imagery might affect how you might deal with those folks and or how you might view those folks in terms of extending credit to them per se. So that's number one. And again, I may be on an island by myself. Others may share that perspective. But for me, I know personally that the disadvantaged word, I don't think it's a fair representation of what's happened and why our community is where it is right now. The second thing that I want to highlight is that Teddy Roosevelt established the Farm Credit System in 1908. And that was done to address problems facing the rural communities. It's working really well. And it has worked well for rural farmers specifically. So there is a system in place that has been established and has been around for over 100 years that works really well. but it's focused primarily, or it's not focused, or it hasn't focused on serving our communities really well. And so the brings me to my third component. One of the things that I think is really important to enhance or to achieve the outcomes that Senator Booker and your group are looking for is similar to what was done with healthcare, where they really got insurance companies to start focusing on quality outcomes and built incentives around those outcomes being achieved. And therefore, people that were able to deliver on some of those things either got early access to membership, or people that wanted to apply for membership. They got incentive-based rewards on the back end through HICS or HEDIS, which are medical programs that the government rewards people that are able to keep under a certain percentage and or able to achieve quality outcomes. So there was an incentive to do certain things. And I think whatever is part of a remedy needs to have those types of carrots associated with them, maybe more so than a stick. The fourth thing that I wanted to throw out there, well, it's probably five. I said four. My mom has a saying that a fool and his money are soon parted. And so consultative services, those types of things, it's more than just giving a handout. Folks are going to need support in order to turn a corner, or be successful, particularly in areas where they maybe haven't had success at in the past. And then lastly, and I'll close on this, I don't want to just throw out a sermon or speak to a problem and not be part of the solution. So part of what I want to throw out to you here, Adam, is, myself. I'm happy to help work with you guys in any way if it's possible, and I'm sure others on the team would be willing to do that as well, to help build some framework around some of the things that we've talked here, so that not only do you create a program, but it's a program that's sustainable and that drives real results. When you look about Teddy Roosevelt and focusing on the problems that were facing rural communities, this needs to focus on the problems that are facing the urban communities: food deserts, lack of access to nutritional food, economic disparities that I think sort of what we're speaking to as well, and the need to build around that. So again, I just don't want to bring a problem. I think you got to be part of the solution as well. So some of my thoughts and also a hand raised to help in any way that I'm able to, so that you guys can be successful. We can all be successful in what you're trying to accomplish.
Well, thank you so much for just those thoughtful comments, and I'll respond to a couple of your points. I think the offer of assistance is greatly appreciated, and I mentioned that we were able to sort of work on this bill over many months and get a lot of input and feedback from farmers and from advocates. But before we reintroduce the bill in the coming month or two, we would love to get more feedback and make changes to the bill and improve it. I think part of Senator Booker's thinking of introducing it right at the end of the last Congress was just to get it out there, to draw attention to these issues and the importance of these types of reforms getting enacted and wanting to get some momentum heading into the new Congress. But we're definitely open to making some changes, and we already have gotten some feedback and we'll be making some changes. So would love any specific, once you have a chance to just look at the bill text, if there's anything you think we could do differently or better, would definitely welcome that feedback and would work to incorporate ideas. The food deserts you mentioned, and sort of the need to address some things in a bigger way and holistically, so I didn't give my background, but I grew up in New Jersey, and I was with Senator Booker when he was Mayor Booker in Newark. I was in City Hall from 2006 to 2013. And I was in the Economic Development Department, but we created a sustainability office within that department. And in the sustainability office, we had a food policy director, and we really tried to, in a whole bunch of different ways, get at the fact that so much of Newark is a food desert, where you just have residents that do not live anywhere near, you know, an opportunity to purchase healthy food and fresh fruits and vegetables. And so we were able to attract some new supermarkets to the city. We gave grants to the corner bodegas to get refrigeration equipment installed so they could start to sell more fresh fruits and vegetables. We did urban gardens and urban farming, both at like just the really tiny sort of garden scale, but also a couple of multi-acre urban farms that we were able to then distribute the produce through farm stands and farmers markets into these communities. And so it was sort of like with that image of how broken the food system is for people like the residents of Newark and low-income communities, communities of color like Newark, and then coming to the Senate and working on the Farm Bill and traveling around the country and seeing that the same system that's broken in Newark, it's really broken everywhere. Like, it's not treating the farmers and ranchers for the most part in a fair way. It's not, you know, environmentally friendly. It's not, you know, there's so many, you can go down the list of the different ways where we really need to be making improvements. But so I think in this one bill, we're not going to solve all those problems, but there's other legislation that Senator Booker has introduced to try to get at some of the, you know, many issues that you mentioned that I think we should all be focusing on. So I'd love to talk at some point about some of his other legislation that we'll be working hard on in this new Congress. And then on the socially disadvantaged farmer and rancher term, I agree with you that it's like, I don't love that sort of way of describing either, but right now we have the past couple of farm bills has sort of defined those terms, and they have a specific meaning that include Black farmers, but also farmers from other groups that have a history of suffering from discrimination. And but yeah, I want to be precise with my sort of choice of words and how I talk about these things. So I appreciate you just flagging that.
I appreciate that, Adam. Thanks for that response. I think we have John Jamerson. Go ahead.
Greetings, Adam. You just got through hearing from my my twin, TJ. He's a year older than me, though. But he touched on a few points that I had. But first, I wanted to reiterate one of the things that he had, that it was my number one, which was how can we get involved? And so if there's, you know, a contact group or anything that we can use or utilize, if there's any types of meetings or webinars or anything that we can be a part of, you know, that will be beneficial and helpful for us to pick up on. Similar to my brother, we're looking. I was looking at some of the things that may be able to assist in this bill. We had read through it. We had gone through it about a month ago, right after it came out, and so some of the things that I had jotted down that I thought would be beneficial to have in this new bill would be to have automatic set aside money for the different grants and stuff that are out there, automatic set aside procurement opportunities that are already out there and have a office or an advocate group that helps to walk that through. Similar to what we do here through Life, you know, part of our thing that we do is to introduce, to try to get participation in and try to increase participation in USDA programs loans, scholarships, and grants. We don't have a problem introducing it to our people. We don't have a problem getting them to initiate trying to get into those programs. However, once they get there, they're still running into a lot of the same issues that we have. And so for me, the way I see it, it's like playing football. If you throw a pass and they tackle the guy right outside the end zone and he's not able to catch the ball, then there should be some type of penalty to where you're advanced a little bit. And so with that being said, there should be money set aside. I'll give an example of how, we're talking about we're trying to end discrimination, but you can't end discrimination just by making everything equal again. Saying, well, it's equal across the board. That's not giving us a fair opportunity to say, okay, well, everybody's, we're running this race. Everybody stop where they are because, we done tied down these guys and held them back all this time. And so now let's restart the race where you're at. That's not giving us any advantage. So we have to be able to advance some. And for example, with the $2 trillion that was given away last year to businesses and stuff, it came on a first come, first served basis. And our people are the last to get served and we're the last to know. So we didn't get hardly any of that money that came to our communities, to our businesses. And out of that, it should be say, hey, you guys are 14% of the population. So out of that, $250, $280 billion should have been set aside just for our businesses to be able to apply. Because we're not familiar with the processes because we've been shut out all this time. And so there has to be something put in place that gives us that opportunity to be able to catch up so that we, so everything ain't just grabbed off the table before we get there. And then it's like, oh, well, we told everybody at the same time, but we got to figure out the pathway. So set aside that for us. And then as we have an opportunity to learn and to know and everything else, then we're able to be a part of it. And, not asking for any cutbacks as far as, what the requirements are or anything else. I think that, we should be able to do the jobs and everything else that are being put out there. So I'm not asking for anything like that, but there should be something that is set aside for us. And as TJ was pointing out, looking at your plan to be able to give land, to become a farmer of that size, to be able to go out there and to get the equipment that one would need today to farm 160 acres, combines are $500,000. Your tractors, today's tractors are $300,000, $400,000. And so the money that it takes just for the equipment, the money that it takes now just for the fertilizer, for the seed and everything else that goes with it, there has to be more to this than just that, because even if they're growing, if we're not a part of the system that's already there, we're easily weeded back out. So as we're trying to create, I got my state representative on here, John Bartlett. We're working together with the different schools in Indiana, in Evansville, Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, Gary, Indiana, and also Chicago, Illinois, putting together these things, working with a K through collegiate thing with the HBCUs. We're trying to put in place those things that help to create those opportunities, to help create the knowledge of agriculture, so that we're not just always dependent on just plugging into those who have shut us out so that eventually they can just cut us off again. We're trying to help also to build in our community that infrastructure of businesses that we can rely on through our own to help to give job opportunities and things in those communities, to be able to create our own grocery stores and things of that in our own community, to supply our own communities with the food and the things that we need. And so something like that also needs to be considered into this grant. And one final thing is this farm bill, is this going to be the one that's coming up in the next, 3-4 years? Or is this one that is more on an annual? And I'm asking that just to know, so we can have a realistic idea, because with what Senator Booker put out before, everybody's excited. But what you're going to run into, that is, this is the one that's coming out in, I think 2024 or something like that. I think it comes out every 6 years. I can't remember exactly. But the Black community is going to look at that and be like, this is another hurry up and wait situation. What they need is something right now. And so if he can help to push something for right now, this is what the people need. And so
thank you, John, for all that feedback. And I'll work backwards. So the next farm bill is 2023. It's every 5 years. It was 2018. So they'll start writing it this Congress, right? Like they'll start holding hearings and working on it in 2021, and then even more so in 2022 to try and pass. But that said, it's that, to your point, is exactly right, that still is, right, a couple years away. It's not like imminent at all. And so I think from Senator Booker's perspective, we're going to be looking to see if there's pieces of this bill that we can start to find any kind of moving vehicle for, that's, a big bill that we could get, right? So our plan is not to wait for the next farm bill. That said, a lot of times the way that big bills in the ag space pass is they don't get like their own vote on the floor, but they end up in the farm bill. So I think, we'll be looking down every possible path. I think the fact that we won Georgia, right, both those Senate seats, and now have the control of the Senate, it's the slimmest possible control with the vice president breaking the tie. But I think that creates an opportunity for us. President Biden has been talking about the first bill that he wants Congress to take up is the next COVID relief bill with, the money for the vaccines and all those things. But right after that, a sort of recovery, infrastructure, climate change, stimulus bill. And I think a bill like that, we could come to the table. Are they going to take our whole bill and put it in there? Definitely not. And it couldn't pass the Senate that way anyway with just 50 votes. But maybe there's a couple of important provisions that we could pull out and try to get them passed this year. To your point, to build momentum, to get some actual relief out to Black farmers that need it right now and can't wait a bunch more years. And then I think the opportunity to try to work with USDA, because some of these things, like a foreclosure moratorium, they could do that. They don't need Congress, right? They don't need to wait on us. And so I know that there's been a sort of spectrum of different reactions to President Biden putting Secretary Vilsack potentially back in at USDA. And I think he's at least saying all the right things right now about wanting to sort of do a lot more for Black farmers than maybe happened last time he was there, and committing to making these issues a priority. And so I think we'll take him at his word on day one and try to just hold him to that and see how much of this we could just push through the existing USDA. And then, to your point of, we need to do more than just say that, okay, everyone's starting over and wherever you are, even though there's been so much discrimination up until now that have made it so that it's just not a fair playing field. We try to do that in a bunch of ways in the bill, but I'm sure that there's more we could do. But like, and I didn't go into the details when I first talked through it, but if you were to receive a land grant, then what the bill provides is really favorable terms for operating loans and for USDA residential mortgages. And so on the operating loans, it would be 0% interest for 7 years and 24 months before any payments are due. So we're trying to recognize that it's not just about giving the land. And we also, I think, in part tried to get at like someone with no experience in farming that doesn't have a lot of resources. 160-acre farm probably would not be what makes sense for them to get to, right? Like probably a smaller farm, you know what I mean, would be a better place for them to start. But we try to give as many sort of resources for these farmers to get, you know, the nonprofits and the 1890s helping them at no charge with farmer training and getting up and running and succession planning and legal assistance. So we're trying to you know, funnel all that to them, recognizing that we're not starting all at the same spot. And so, but there's probably more that we could do and would love feedback on. And then how get involved? How can you all, people watching and listening that like what's in the bill, I think just wherever you live, have, you know, to the extent that you can reach out to so we expect to have a bill not just in the Senate this year, but in the House as well. And so to the extent you can have either your member of Congress or your senator that you could reach out to make sure that they're aware of this bill, that you would love for them to co-sponsor it, to help support it, to help it move forward, right? Because ultimately, the way things work, and you know, coming from Newark, coming from the executive branch where Senator Booker was the mayor, it's like when we were there, we were in charge, right? Like if we wanted to do something, we did it and we got it done. And here, our influence is much more indirect, right? We have to build support from so many other senators and House members. And so just having help and boots on the ground where people are reaching out to their member of Congress to make sure they're aware of this bill and asking them to support it.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, John. Hey, just for the sake of time, we're about 4 minutes from the hour. Adam, are you okay with maybe 15 more minutes of questions?
So I actually have a 7 o'clock with the senator that they tried to schedule for 6 o'clock, and I told them I can't do 6 to 7, so they pushed it to 7 for me because I wanted to not miss this, but I do have to jump in a couple minutes. Okay,
maybe you can bring the senator on.
I would love to, but it's a whole another group of people that I'm joining.
Okay, no worries. All right, so just a couple more minutes. Jetty, go ahead if you have a quick question, and then we'll.
I do have questions. Yeah, primarily, I wrote them a while back. I was a plaintiff, Adam. Thank you for being here again. I was a plaintiff in the Pickford Glickman USDA discrimination case. I'd like to know. I'm saying the same thing I wanted to say pretty much. How will our specific interests be represented? Because of the degree of disenfranchisement of our people can't be legitimately lumped in with the disenfranchisement of other groups. Some of those have historic hostilities towards the people. But even though there are more black faces in authority now since the Glickman case, we still have discrimination. Some of those guys are not even black when you talk about being pro-farmer, because they don't care for some of us. I was in my region here, under a black NRCS person, and he did a lousy job. He helped everyone but people like myself. So I want to know, it should be called the socially disadvantaged bill rather than black farmers, because that's misleading. It's making everyone else think that we are getting these benefits exclusively, when in fact we're not. And I agree with John, we do need set-asides because our interests are historically neglected. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah, and I think, the heart of the bill is really helping black farmers, and the land grant program is open only to existing black farmers and aspiring black farmers. But then there are other parts of the bill where the assistance that's there for black farmers is there more broadly. But I appreciate your comments across the board.
We'll help you wherever we can. Thank you.
Hey, is Sabrina still on, or is she gone?
No, I'm here.
Oh, go ahead, Sabrina, real quick.
So Sorry, I'm gonna try to get straight to the point. Well, all I wanted to say is, he mentioned the Native Americans. The Native Americans have their own land. We can't go on their land and purchase their land. When they had the problems with the Japanese, they gave them their money. It was exclusively for them. So when it comes to us and our need for our land, it should be exclusive for us. When Obama got into presidency, he started in 2009. Obamacare passed in 2010. This right here started in, this is 21, isn't 20? It shouldn't take years to get this going. It can be as simple as letting people go to college, just go ahead and start learning agriculture. It can start as simple as that. But it should be exclusively for African Americans, not for all that other stuff, because they got theirs. We are different. Native Americans different. They were here. It was another group that was here also. But African Americans, we were not immigrants. We were brought here. We did not choose. Did not stand on our 2 feet and come over here. We did not choose. We were brought over here. So we are totally different. So this should be exclusive, period. So sorry for being, I just try to get to the point because my phone is dying.
No, I really appreciate those comments, and like I said earlier, certainly other groups have been discriminated against, but the history of discrimination against Black farmers that we're trying to address is unique to Black farmers. And the truth is, as you all know, it goes back a lot more than 100 years, but even just what we're trying to address in this bill. And so one of the things I didn't mention is that the bill also would put a lot of new dollars to all the HBCUs, not just the land-grant universities, but all the HBCUs. But again, just HBCUs, so that they can expand their courses of study related to agriculture and ag research.
Thank you.
And that's a good thing, but a lot of HBCUs are not exclusively owned by African Americans also. So then that's another thing, but that's also a good thing.
Well, thank you all so much for having me. And I would really love to just keep an open line of communication where we can collaborate and talk more in the future. And I know that at some point the senator would love to, during his travels, try to just visit as many farms as possible and meet people. And so it would be great to just stay in touch.
Great, Adam. If you don't mind, if I can just contact you directly, if we have any questions, or if we can get the senator on one of these calls as well, can I do that?
Yeah, please feel free to email me or call me. And
Okay.
If you have any comments, questions I didn't get to answer, or comments on the bill, feel free to reach out.
All right. Perfect. Appreciate
Thank
you
you,
so much
Adam.
for your time, Adam. Thank you so much. In regards to Senator Booker, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Hope you come
Okay.
again. All right.
Thanks, guys. Really nice to spend some time.
All right.
Likewise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for showing up. That's our presentation that we had for today. And Gabe, you did an excellent job as the host. I didn't know if anybody else might have anything that they wanted to say, or questions that they might ask or want to ask them, and maybe we can have Gabe do that, or but that's up to him. I don't know if he's got that much time. I know everybody's on a time limit today.
Well, I was going to say, if there's some outstanding questions that just need to be answered, I mean, I'd be more than happy to email Adam with that question.
Yeah.
More than happy.
May I?
Go for it.
Okay. Several things. John Jefferson, you mentioned the fact about being equal and equitable, two different things.
Right.
And we have to recognize that. It's a ham and egg sandwich sounds like that's equal, half ham, half egg. But that chicken drop egg keeps stepping. That dog got to die and drop a leg. So, and we need to make this thing equitable. Also, we have to have a plan in place. Has the National Black Caucus of State Legislators been contacted? One, the reason why I asked that is because we need committees so we can have our plan in place. Now, this bill is going to be reoffered in 2023. But if our state legislatures are doing things to help this, then it makes it easier on a federal level. So the National Black Caucus of state legislature, they meet every year, and there's a president, and they can be doing things in different states to enhance that. Also, there should be state-supported schools that have agriculture should be partnering with Black students and not charging them, because your tax dollars are paying for that anyway. So, and this group needs to break off into committees. So like if, because I don't know farming, but I do know policymaking. So put people where they're good at so we can start doing things. So when the dollars hit, we're ready to go. Not when the dollars hit, but then we got to put a plan together. Let's put a plan together now, put it together early. So when the dollars hit, we're ready to go. And that's my spiel.
I'd like to ask you a question, Brother Bartlett. Would you consider for one of our speaking opportunities to come on and walk through the process of what you feel we need to do concerning the National Black Caucus and the state legislators, so we can get everybody around the country on the same page and we can move forward that way?
Absolutely. Actually, John, because after meeting you, for the state of Indiana, I got on the agriculture committee, the only African-American on the agriculture committee. But I got there because what I learned from you, and I knew that we needed a presence there. And so we also need to get the National Black Caucus of state legislators really involved with this, because then you're doing it all around the country, right. And then we'll begin to get our just due.
Thank you.
Yes, but I will, to answer your question, yes, I will do that.
All right, I appreciate that.
I
Definitely.
had a question or a comment as well. So I read through the bill, and I've noticed that in none of the bill outlines anything with agriculture marketing service nor value-added programs. And to your point, John, when you were bringing up, hey, in this bill, we need to have some set-asides, right? How you dictate that flow of money. So if we figure the agriculture marketing service within the USDA spends $300 billion annually. 99% of those dollars in the US to farmers in the US. So I'll start there. And 99% of those dollars go to our white counterpart farms. There's no dedicated organization or division within the agriculture marketing service that targets African-American farmers to get them certified, their farms certified and set up to be able to sell to the US government, who is the biggest buyer of commodity. Let's be very clear, right? There's the farmers markets, and then there's the US government, okay? So that really concerns me. And so when we talk about having a plan, some of these line item things that should be, when we talk about routing the money and sending it where it needs to go within this bill, it is appalling to me that AMS was not called out. Right. And because the reason why is because they have grants and they have set aside dollars. When you do government contracting, I'm big on government contracting, that's where I started. When you do government contracting, normally there's a federal acquisition requirements within government contracting that dictates how you have to spend your dollars, right? Which kind of guides the 30% set aside, and why these Black businesses and Chamber of Commerce's are flourishing in the traditional government contracting sector. Why does that rule not apply to the USDA AMS?
It should.
Whenever you see any of their contracts and it has that set aside box, not one of them is marked. And so these are the type of things that, and when I think about a bill, and I know policy because I wrote policy for the government, it is very important that those things are called out because they know where the money is at. The loans burden us. Loans are burdens. Spending money with us is not a burden. You've been awarded a contract, and it's a $2 million contract to supply chicken feed to the government, and they buy it every year on the quarter. That's different, and they know it, and they specifically left it out of this bill. Another thing about that is the value added piece. So when I think about putting together committees, I'm going to follow where the USDA spends money. And if we are not accounted for in that, it needs to be accounted for, and it's a line item they can put in now. Set aside should apply to EMS.
Right.
So, education should apply to EMS. And value added services should apply to socially disadvantaged farmers or African American farmers, period, full stop. And not once is it mentioned in that bill. Both of those two services, the biggest spenders in USDA. And if you want to head it up, I'll head it up.
Well,
but it's a problem.
Let's do it. Yes.
Yeah. And that's what Ms. Peoples, what you're saying, farming and policy. And we need to define the committees that we need to set up. And you and I think John Jamerson, because I work with him, know what committees need to be set up. And we need to set those committees up and get those folks started to work ASAP.
Yeah.
Well, I only sleep 2 hours a day. I'll give my next 5 hours for this. And we're talking about executive orders. That can be an executive order.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what really needs to be put here. And Brother Barkley, just wanted to let you know, part of the reason why we've been on delay is Baba Kamal, he's had some issues in his family the past couple of weeks. And so that's where our delay is on getting back with you guys. But I talked to him earlier today, and we will be getting with you guys probably next week. I was going to send out an email tomorrow on that. So just want you to know we haven't forgotten about you. He's just had some serious issues going on at home. So
we understand that. We understand that. So can I get off here now?
You're good.
Yeah,
You're
good. Thank you, Ms. Peoples. I love your energy. I love what you do, and we just need to come together and with a plan. Thank you all.
Let's do it. Let's do it. All right. I appreciate Deb. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time. I think I muted her. Let me see if I can unmute her.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. I had a conflict for a very long time, but that's over now.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you back and back in the fold. Look forward to that. We got a brother Ouka up there. He and I, we've been having lengthy discussions for all week. I'd like for you, if you would, unmute yourself and introduce yourself and who you are to our group here. Hold on. Let me see if I can unmute you.
Okay.
You got it.
Greetings to everyone. Name is Uka Legba. I'm currently serving as the co-chair for the National Coalition for Blacks for Reparations in America. And I reside right now in Lafayette, Louisiana. So I was glad to be invited to this Zoom presentation because I found there was a lot of things that I learned. It's a learning process for me, in learning the different aspects of farming. In particular, one of the things that I really was appreciative was the comment that was made by Sister Sabrina dealing with the bill in particular, because a lot of times what I noticed over the years, when things that's supposed to be exclusively for us, there's always something added for others. And that's one of the things that in being involved in the reparations movement, we know the injuries that have been, that we have been faced with as a people. So that was something that I picked up real quick when at that point. And also there's been several other points that's been raised, Sister Tamika, in terms of following the dollars, because there's a lot of spending going on, and So I'm in agreement with a lot of things and those things and the points and as far as there being certain set asides, because we need to know where this stuff is going at, you know, and that definitely will be impactful for us as a people. So I end with that.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on that real quick too, because I had another question for Adam. And this is kind of towards Tamika's point about the marketing aspect. We all know that, you know, the average farmer in America is what, 65 years old, or maybe older than that, the average age. And we really need to get our younger generation involved with farming. But we need to make farming cool. You know, playing basketball is cool, playing football is cool, being a rapper is cool, but being a farmer isn't that cool yet. But, you know, maybe through technology, through marketing, we can make farming cool. And I think we have an opportunity now to, with all the social media and everything, is find a way to engage the young folks and show them that farming can be lucrative. Most of the time when you talk to an older farmer right now, they say it's hard work, back-breaking work, and you don't make any money at it. I mean, the ones that are making money have all the automation, they have all the tractors, as John was pointing out, they have all the loans, they have all the support. But right now, you know, farming isn't sexy, but it needs to be if we want to attract the younger generation. So I'm hoping that maybe there could be some marketing dollars in that bill to really target young folks, and make farming the next kind of career for African Americans, and not just African Americans, but for young folks.
Right.
That's what I wanted to ask as well.
All right.
I
Anybody
agree.
else?
Ronette, you got something?
No, I was just agreeing with him. That make, yeah.
All right. Leon, you good? Or you got something?
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm holding it down here in Tampa.
Well, good. I'm glad to see you and everything. Unless there's any other questions, like I said, I want to be respectful to everybody's time, and we'll go ahead and sign off. So if you got a question, now's your opportunity. With that being said, Gabe, you good?
I'm good, guys. Thanks for joining. Appreciate
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.
Good night, everybody.
All right. Thank you,
Good night,
Sabrina.
Thank you.
All right. Good to see everybody. Thank you.
All right, talk later.
All right.